Hello. हाँ जी, Professor Banmurthy, welcome. Kindly unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, sir, and good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, ji. Good afternoon. Vimal is not visible. No, no, she is.
Yeah.
ओहो, ये पीछे से लाइट आ रही है मेरा ख्याल।
Let me change my set.
ये लाइट पीछे से डिस्टर्ब कर रही है?
Yes, sir. आपका ना फेस अंधेरे में है थोड़ा.
हाँ हाँ, आई.
If you can, yeah, you're on laptop or desktop? So we'll start at 3. Welcome. Good afternoon, everyone. We are waiting for Professor Bakshi has not joined, no? Rest everyone is there. Yeah.
Anji. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Pan जी कैसे हैं? ठीक हैं?
हाँ बढ़िया.
All the best.
Let me unmute myself. And so good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this next webinar in our GAD-TLC webinar series. And title today is Teaching During Post-COVID Times. We all as teachers, I think we have already learned some ways, and some more discussion will be done in this direction by none other than our speaker will be Professor K.V. Bhanumurthy, who is former Dean Faculty of Commerce and Business and of the School of Economics, and presently he is professor in Delhi Technological University. So I welcome you all today for this webinar. All the participants who have joined through Zoom as well as joined through the YouTube live streaming. Welcome you all. And I'd also like to welcome our distinguished core team and extended team. We have Professor A.K. Bakshi, Chairman GAD-TLC, Vice Chancellor PDM University, Haryana. Welcome, sir. Professor K.V. Bhanumurthy, as I mentioned, he is also Vice Chairman of our GAD-TLC Center. Welcome, sir. Dr. Jaswinder Singh, Principal HTTP Khalsa College and Director GAD-TLC. Welcome, sir. And my colleagues, Dr. Arun Jalka from Maharaja Agrasen College and Dr. Amit Sehgal from Hansraj College. And my support team is always there. So with this, let us all take the blessings from the God to start this particular webinar. And let me tell you, most of you are already aware, but quickly I'll be putting this, that this is the center of MHRD, Government of India, under the very prestigious Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya Nation Mission on Teachers and Teaching Scheme. And we as a team, we have taken the mandate to take the training and capacity building of teachers in the front of ICT tools, pedagogy, and preparing them towards the futuristic roles. And in that direction, today's webinar becomes very important, that immediately due to COVID, how we have taken shape, and then what other things we have to evolve, there will be discussion. And let me tell you, this prestigious scheme at MHRD level has been named in the honor of Bharat Ratna Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya ji. And at our college, we have kept it in the honor and seeking blessings of Guru Angad Dev ji, the second of the 10 Sikh Guru. And we have a state-of-art facility where we do hands-on training and all. But now, because of this unforeseen and unprecedented situation, we have now become online and doing some activities. We started this center in July 2016. And in our distinguished advisory committee, apart from Professor Bakshi and Professor Bhanumurthy and Dr. Jaswinder Singh, we also have Professor N.K. Chadda, who is a well-known psychologist. He is a former professor from Department of Psychology, Delhi University. We also have Professor Aditya Bhattacharya, who is a well-known economist and head Department of Economics from Delhi University. And we have Dr. R.P. Singh, my colleague from HTTP Khalsa College, and he is a well-known commerce teacher. So collectively, we are working in various activities and taking these things further. And before I go further, I will request Dr. Jaswinder Singh, our worthy principal, HTTP Khalsa College and director of GAD-TLC, to please give a formal welcome address to all of you.
Thank you, Dr. Vimal. Let me begin by welcoming Professor A.K. Bakshi, the Vice Chancellor of PDM University in the NCR of Delhi. Professor Bakshi, as Dr. Vimal has said, that he is a distinguished professor, not only in the University of Delhi, but he is known in the area of chemistry all over India and beyond the boundaries of this nation. Today's seminar, as Dr. Vimal has introduced, that it is primarily directed towards looking at the challenges which we face in the teaching, especially in the COVID-19 situation. We know that this is the time when perhaps the teaching part in the colleges and the universities is over, and the examination has begun. The examination has begun in various formats, in the sense that the practical examinations are almost over, and the internal assessment, where we get the assignments and other things, that is also over. But now we are starting with the full-fledged examination from Monday, beginning with the foreign languages. And this is being done first at the disaggregate level, and then the teachers in the various formats in the sense that some are preparing the questions, some are coordinating with the conduct of the examinations, some will be assessing the students. And then we are also, which is an essential component of teaching, we are also beginning with the admission process in the different universities and colleges. And the teachers have already started experimenting, this period which came all of a sudden, the corona pandemic, Now you see, as all of us understand that this is at peak, and when the peak is when this curve is going to bend, that really is anybody's guess. So therefore, all the more important that we should understand as teachers, we should prepare themselves, we should prepare ourselves rather, that how we are going to begin the classes, how we are going to conduct our programs, and are there any possibilities of doing it in a much better way, or in a way that at least the students should not be at a loss, the teachers should not be at a loss in communicating what they intend to do with the students. So our team, led by Professor Bakshi, as Vimal said, has has evolved various flexibilities which we are providing to the teachers, that how qualitatively they can meet the students' requirements, and also while retaining the originality of their teaching standards, in the sense that every teacher may have some pedagogical skills, every subject may have certain pedagogical challenges, and this is the time where we can, in a certain sense, improve upon our text techniques, and then, deliver them, the students, with much more effectiveness, the content that we want to deliver in the classroom. Today's lecture, today's workshop, in a certain sense, or the webinar, is going to be, the main speaker is going to be my colleague in University of Delhi, Professor K.V. Banamurthy, who is a renowned professor in economics in Delhi School of Economics, especially the Department of Commerce. He has various interests, in the sense that apart from developing the methodology that how economics can play a very significant role in the evolution of commerce, which has, in fact, in a certain sense, commerce discipline has emerged before us during the last 30 years. And he played a very significant role in doing that. And also, he has been, a great environmentalist, in the sense that he has worked a lot on environmental economics and in the protection of environment in general. And off late, in the sense that not off late, but right from his teaching days only, he was very keen to develop the methodology, or use the technology in enriching the teachers, in empowering the teachers. And he has been working as a team leader along with Professor Bakshi to do many things that we have been doing in this center, which Dr. Vimal will share with you. And today's webinar in this series, this webinar lecture, is going to be handled by Professor Banamurthy. I'm sure all of us will benefit from his today's talk. He has delivered, and he has, in a certain sense, structured our talks in the Guru Angad Dev Teaching Learning Center, in the sense that we know what are the topics and what is the coverage that we must give it to the teachers. And Professor Bakshi, Dr. Vimal, Dr. Banamurthy, and the entire team has been working towards this end. And I'm sure today's lecture will go a step forward in making us aware of the challenges, and also it will give us the tools which we can use in the classrooms. Professor Banamurthy, as I said, is a renowned professor, and he has diverse interests. Currently, he is teaching the management students in Delhi Technological University. Earlier, it was Delhi Engineering College, and a very popular face there. So welcome, Professor Banamurthy, on behalf of the management, on behalf of the centers, and also on behalf of the Khalsa management. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And before we proceed further, very quickly, I'll make you aware about some contribution that our team has done, and where all the teachers can benefit. At Center for e-learning, we have completed 89 courses in e-PG Pathshala project for these 6 subjects: chemistry, commerce, economics, psychology, forensic science, and business economics. Although they have been made as per the model UGC curricula for the postgraduate level, but many of them are overlapping because of the syllabi variation in the universities and the futuristic approach. So many you'll find they are also fitting the requirement of the UG level. So all of you can look at them and use them in your uh, classroom teaching, or the blended mode and the flipped classroom model that our team is always saying that has to be taken further as blended mode, and especially post COVID time. We have also developed 42 MOOCs in these 6 subjects, and they are all available on SWAM platform. You can access them in the non-engineering courses, and you and your students can get benefited. We also have a very prestigious National Resource Center of Chemistry, where our mandate is to make the MOOCs for the teachers training, and that is ARPIT program, that is Annual Refresher Program in Teaching. And here 2 batches have already passed out. In first batch in 2018 we had almost 2500 teachers, and this time we have more than 5600 teachers, and they have all benefited from this course, which is equivalent to a face-to-face refresher course. And now we have gone into our activities, most of them online. And but while going online, we are still trying to ensure that there is a seriousness. And here I like to mention that FDP is done under our banner. There is a We ensure there is a participation in different formats, not only the attendance but also the uh, assignments, tests, projects, quizzes, so that there is a full involvement. So even if it is online, I think we all, teachers and students, have to be now also trustworthy to the system, I will say, because in webinars there are news coming, which I also, our team is getting disturbed, that teachers are just looking for certificates. I think humble request, we should look for values in these webinars, and certificate should only be taken when you have really attended the full. So that's why we have evolved some methodology that we are fulfilling the feedback form, which is randomly given at any point of time. But I'm disturbed to see there are many teachers approaching that, who say that, okay, no, we did for 5 minutes and then we. So please, humble request, do not attend if you have no time, if you have no inclination on this. But if you attend fully, then and only then you should claim for the certificate. So, and this type of system we should inculcate in our entire teaching learning atmosphere. And now I will request Professor A.K. Bakshi to please say a few words about webinar, and also introduce Professor Bhanumurthy to all the audience.
Thank you, Dr. Vimal, and I welcome warmly all the co-panelists and all the participants from across the country. I sincerely hope that all of you are perfectly safe and in the best of health and spirits. I'm very happy that today we are going to have a webinar by Professor Bhanu Murthy, who is a very valuable member of our team. And if you recall, he had already delivered a webinar on re-engineering of higher education in India. So today he is speaking on teaching during and post-COVID times. So you will all agree that in any higher education institution, the biggest problem has been that it has led to the eruption of teaching learning processes. So somehow most of the institutions are managing the things, but whether the quality is being maintained or not, that's still a big question mark. In my opinion, teaching learning is the most important component of any education process. How you teach and how the students learn, because your teaching has to be in such a way that it ensures effective learning by the students. So that's a very big challenge. And since online mode is basically you self-learn, you learn in isolation. So whether the teaching through online mode is able to inspire the students or not, that's also a big question. So, there are many challenges. It's not merely that you deliver a lecture and that's the end of the world. There are so many things because you have to motivate the students and they should feel, yes, we get inspired by the talk. So how this teaching is going to take place during COVID times, and once COVID is over, how will we return to the normalcy, whether the things will be the same, and if it is not so, social distancing and other problems are there, then how will the teaching be carried out? So these are many questions which must be arising in your mind, and I'm sure justice to all of them will be done by Professor K.V. Bhanumurthy, who is, as you all know, a very distinguished professor has been a distinguished professor of Delhi University. He has been Dean, Delhi School of Economics and Commerce Studies, and then he is presently professor at Delhi Technological University. Let me go through his profile also. Vimal, can you get me the profile of Professor Bhanumurthy? Yes, as you can see here, Professor Bhanumurthy is former Dean Faculty of Commerce and Head Department of Commerce, Delhi School of Economics, University of Delhi. He is PhD in Economics from Department of Economics, Delhi School of Economics. And as you know, Delhi School of Economics is one of the leading, institutes of the country, and it won't be wrong if I say of the world. He has published 3 books from international publisher, 30 chapters in international books and monographs. He has more than 120 publications in all, out of which 30 are in international journals, as well as he has to his credit 100 papers in international and national conferences. So you can very well imagine how much he has been active and how much he has been in demand. And then he has done many national and international projects, including the prestigious E-LEARI project with Open University GK, UK, and MacArthur Foundation, USA. He has 5 international and more than 20 national best paper awards. That's great. He has produced during his career at Delhi University 22 PhDs and 25 MPhils. And you can very well imagine that all these accomplishments do not come easily. And why we read this profile of any distinguished person? One is, of course, to introduce the person. And second is that you people, you teachers in the university system, they should also get inspired that if this person has achieved so much, why can't we? Or why can't we even more than that? So that is the inspiration which you get from such, brilliant profiles the professors have. So I once again welcome Professor Bhanumurthy to this webinar, and I'm sure he would deliver his talk now. And please, now the stage is yours, Professor Bhanumurthy.
Thank you. Please allow me to share the screen, please. Mohit.
Yes, sir, doing. So you can share screen now.
Good afternoon, dear friends. Thank you, Professor Bakshi, for the nice introduction. Thank you, Vimal. And before I go on to the presentation as such, I want to give some introductory remarks. And Professor Bakshi has just pointed out that I had talked about, and I'm guessing that some of the participants may also be might have attended the earlier session, which I had spoken about re-engineering higher education. And in a sense, this is my concentration over there was on the new pedagogy and what all it entailed in terms of three strands, three pillars, which is outcome-based education, uh, e-learning, and distance education. These were the three pillars that I may remind you. And in COVID times, which we are now experiencing, I'm sure all of you would agree that it is all the more important these three pillars have become the mainstay, because if we are teaching in such circumstances where the colleges are not live, you are not in a classroom, you're not facing the students, the students and teachers do not have enough access to libraries and to materials and so on. And then all the material has to be converted into e-form, into electronic form. So these were all the challenges that Professor Bakshi was also pointing out. So what I want to say is that as an extension, as a sequel to what I had said in the earlier lecture, now it becomes very clear that these three pillars, that is distance learning, e-learning, and outcome-based education. These are the three pillars which have become even more important in today's times. And as Professor Bakshi also pointed out, and all of us are guessing that I think that these three pillars have come to stay. This break that has come because of COVID is a kind of a historical accident. And this accident is going to lead to, like in economics, we call it a structural break. That means before and after COVID, the way in which we teach is not going to remain the same. There is going to be a permanent shift in the way in which we teach. And a large part of that has to do with these three aspects that I've been talking about: distance learning, e-learning, and outcome-based approach. So keep in mind, the first thing that I want to speak about over here is basically the, I'll be talking about something about instructional design and over these years, 10, 15 years, I have changes in and amendments in the Bloom's taxonomy and the instructional design. There are certain novel methods which I have introduced, and I thought that this is the best occasion for me to revisit and to make some clarity in the minds of teachers and also my own colleagues who have been working with me in the area of e-learning, online teaching and learning. So the first thing is that I'll be referring to Bloom's taxonomy and instructional design, because any good teaching learning process is supposed to be based on this Bloom taxonomy. We may or may not realize it, but the whole of this Bloom's taxonomy approach is relevant for online teaching, for blended learning and teaching, as well as for face-to-face. Before we had online and e-learning and all, it was all through face-to-face. And this Bloom's taxonomy is something which has come up in 1956. It was a follow-up of after the Second World War. And many of these concepts in psychology had actually developed during war psychology. and the core being that of understanding about learning, about knowledge. So therefore, I would like to point out over here the very first thing that there is a mushrooming of webinars on teaching and learning. In the past, I think now it is about 75 days since we had lockdown, but not all of them are based on, although they claim that they are talking about teaching and learning process, but not all of them are aware and not all of them are making us aware about the finer nuances of the instructional design and of outcome-based approach to education. Today, if you talk about something like NAC, the keyword in NAC is basically outcome-based education. The entire evaluation in NAC is based on outcome-based education. And not only that, and also I might remind you, NAC is no longer a one-time affair. When you have one round of NAC, then there is a follow-up of that, and then it goes on and on. So what I'm saying over here is not only relevant for your current teaching needs and methods, it is also relevant for the ongoing process of quality evaluation and quality assurance in education. So secondly, many commentators and teachers who profess about Bloom's taxonomy, in fact, I would like to say over here, and maybe I differ in very vital ways with many of these commentators who talk about Bloom's taxonomy, that they are actually sometimes creating misinformation. And I would support what I'm saying very shortly. Another problem with the way in which Bloom's taxonomy is being professed is also that I said Bloom's taxonomy has been there since 1956, when you didn't have anything like e-learning. But today I'm saying that when we are talking about intensive phase of online and e-learning and blended learning, it is important to revisit and to understand whether Bloom taxonomy, as it is being taught and understood and spoken about, whether it is doing justice to the new mode of teaching. The new mode of teaching, as I've been saying, is online teaching as well as evaluation. So nothing like Dr. and for the present been completed, and now we are having online evaluation. So I think most important and the relevance of instructional design and Bloom's taxonomy has never been more important. So here is, for those of you who are not very familiar, here is a picture of Bloom's taxonomy. Bloom's taxonomy is about, as I said, cognition. It is about learning. It is about the teaching learning process. And there are certain levels over here. You would be able to notice over here, there are certain levels over here. What are these levels? In the original Bloom's taxonomy, we had remember. So now what does this relate to? Now this is the old pedagogy. Please, those of you who have attended my re-engineering lecture would remember that I said that there is an old pedagogy, and in the old pedagogy, most of the emphasis was on remembering. Okay. And this is a term which Professor Bakshi very often uses, and that is rote learning. Okay. So the old pedagogy was based on remembering. Okay. Remembering facts. Once you design your teaching towards remembering facts, then the evaluation also becomes like that. In the evaluation also, you are only talking about how to recount the facts which you have remembered, the facts that you have mugged up. So the whole examination, evaluation system, teaching system, everything is geared only towards information, only towards facts. And this is the major problem with the old pedagogy. When I said we need to re-engineer higher education, we need a new pedagogy. So the fundamental problem lies here, that if we go by Bloom's taxonomy as it has been portrayed, the very first step itself seems to be wrong over here, because we are still talking about remembering. And why? What is the importance of, or can we say about remembering? I'll come to this point. Please keep it in mind. Okay. Please remind me. I will be talking about what is the significance of remembering and how we should understand what the limitation with this approach is, the present form of the Bloom's taxonomy. When we talk about Bloom's taxonomy, there are three levels of the purpose or goal of Bloom's taxonomy, which as I said, is meant for cognition. The one goal is knowledge-based goals, which is associated with information in the traditional teaching method. Skill-based goals, which is associated with application of theory. And affective goals, which is associated with values, attitudes, and interest. So when we combine all these three things, then we will be able to come to the new version of Bloom's taxonomy, which I'll be presenting to you very shortly. Now, let us go back to one term which has been used in education and education psychology, that is associative learning. Okay. What is associative learning? Associative learning is learning by association. The simplest way to understand what is associative learning is that when a child doesn't know anything, if you show an apple, and every time you show the apple and it is a red object, then in the mind of the student, the color red, the shape of the apple, and the word apple, all of these things are associated in the minds of the learner. So the traditional philosophy of learning is associative learning. So when we talk about education, when we talk about pedagogy, we think that the learning process is based on association. You associate a certain image, a certain word, a certain sound with a certain object, and that is how you remember. So that is why Bloom's taxonomy started with memory. It started with remember. And I would like to show that we have gone full circle. Today, we are all talking about, machine learning. So what is associative learning? As I just now said, associative learning is the earlier philosophy of pedagogy, which means that the learner's mind is a passive entity, and it is intuitive, and it gathers the content from the learning environment, and through the act of knowing produces a copy of the order of reality. Here, I would like to remind you of one more thing which I said in my previous lecture. I said the purpose of any science, the purpose of any discipline, the explain. So in teach to explain to our students, I'm trying to explain the real world of economics. If you're a teacher of physics, you're trying to explain the real world of physics. If you are a teacher of biology, you are explaining the real world of nature. Okay. So, but through this associative learning, what is happening is we are perpetuating the old pedagogy. And what is this old pedagogy? It is only telling you how repeatedly you keep looking at the same thing and you confirm whatever knowledge or information that you gather. Okay. So therefore, the old pedagogy is all about remembering, and that is why it is all about rote learning. So my first objection to Bloom's taxonomy is that it should not start with memory. It should not start with remembering. And this is all the more important because when we talk about the new pedagogy, then the basis, the philosophy of the new pedagogy is no longer based on associative learning. It is not about memory. It is not about memorizing. It is not about parallel association with a certain object. It is about something called constructivism. Now, what is constructivism? Constructivism, in one word, constructivism is about meaning. So when I'm teaching a student any concept, I don't want the student to memorize, okay? In the new context, like we are today facing, the student is not in front of you. So there's no point of teaching him how to memorize something, okay? More so because in the electronic age, all the information that a student requires is there at a touch of a button, okay? So why should we ask them to memorize, okay? So there has to be a different method. What is this method? The method or the philosophy is constructivism. What does constructivism mean? Constructivism means that when you teach, then this be creating some meaning. You should be creating some meaning in the minds of the student. So when we say constructivism and in the context of online teaching learning process, it becomes a big challenge. That means the student is not in front of you. You can't directly, teach what is the meaning of a certain concept. So we have to develop methods by which the student is able to understand the meaning. So the whole emphasis has shifted from remembering. The whole emphasis has shifted from fact, from information to meaning. And constructivism is the philosophy by which the teaching learning process leads to creation of meaning. In other words, if online teaching does not create meaning in the minds of the students, then it is a failure of online teaching. So, therefore, I'm saying the most important thing in online teaching, I repeat, is not technology. The technology exists. Technology is subservient to the teaching learning process. What does not exist is the application of the mind of the teacher to this new online method and how constructivism is the goal. How can we create meaning in the minds of the student? And so we have to give up associative learning and we have to move towards constructivism. What is the problem with associative learning? Very strangely, associative learning was related to the old pedagogy, which is more than 200 years old. But today, again, this has come back. When we talk about artificial intelligence, what is artificial intelligence? Many people have been asking questions in our sessions, what is artificial intelligence? I'm trying to give you a simple answer. Artificial intelligence or machine learning is very similar to rote learning. It is very similar to mugging up. And that is what we have been against. Professor Bakshi has said it so many times, rote learning should not be there. Okay. So what does a machine do? What does an artificial intelligence system do? It mugs up. You show 100 times, 200 times, 1,000 times, you show the same object, the same voice, the same face, the same picture. It will recognize that picture. So it is just like a student mugging up something, going into the examination hall and vomiting it out from there. Okay. Trillions of bytes of data at lightning speed are fed into the artificial intelligence system, and then it starts recognizing that by association. Is this what we want to know or we want to teach our students? We don't want to make our students machines. Okay, we don't want them to learn by association. We want them to learn in a constructive way. We want them to learn so that whatever information is there, they can easily gather the information. It's not difficult in today's electronic age. But what we want of them is to develop understanding. to develop meaning. Okay. So the whole objective, the whole way, the whole method, the whole purpose of teaching in the new teaching method has changed. It is no longer designed towards memory. It is no longer designed towards remembering, to rote learning. Okay. There is one technical term which, if there are some computer science teachers, they would know. There is something known as crammers. Okay. And these crammers are a part of this whole, artificial intelligence system. It goes on mugging up millions of trillions of bytes of data. So online teaching, the first thing that I'm saying over here about online teaching is online teaching is not mugging up. It is exactly the opposite. Please understand that we have to make certain online resources available to the students and teachers. We don't have to work so much towards making that. It is more important that they already have the information. When we say they already have the information, this model of teaching is known as flipped classroom. A flipped classroom is where you first already give the material, the information to the student. So your job is not providing information as a student. Your job is to just give them the material and then ask them to go through it. And then they come back in your online classroom and then you discuss. And what do you do after discussing? You create meaning in the minds of the students. So your prime job is not to create the memory of that content. They are provided with that content, and they are supposed to have referred to that content. What is required in online teaching and similarly in online examinations is creation of meaning in the minds of the student. And creation of meaning can be tested only if you test whether they have an understanding. Why I'm saying this is, please make a note of this. This is a very important point as far as new pedagogy is concerned, outcome-based approach is concerned, because I'm very shortly, I'll be telling you that even a big body like NEPA, those of you who are familiar, they have a problem with understanding as a learning outcome. I'll come back to this. Okay. Now, there is a famous saying in education. It is called teaching is an art while learning is a science. What is the implication? That if we are developing outcome-based approach, then we are obliged to design the system very scientifically as far as the learner is concerned. What is outcome-based approach? Outcome-based approach is learner-centric approach. You have to understand how the learner has to learn. And for that, when we say that learning is a science, then you have to have a scientific method. What is the scientific method? The scientific method is instructional design. Okay. So in online teaching, it is all the more important that we must have a clear-cut instructional design when we are teaching. And this clear-cut instructional design is based on the learning outcomes. Okay. And learning outcomes are something which are based on Bloom's taxonomy. I hope now you are understanding the connection between Bloom's taxonomy and online teaching. Okay. I repeat, online teaching, because the students are not in front of you, because it is not the traditional method of teaching, and because you are shifting from a teacher-centric approach to a learner-centric approach, the approach has to change. It has to be outcome-based. You don't know that student is not in front of you. You have to develop a scientific method by which you are able to come out with very clear-cut measurable outcomes. And these outcomes, outcomes have to be specified, and then you should be able to have an evaluation system which is able to go and measure these learning outcomes. Okay. So therefore, we are saying learning is a science, and for that we need to have a scientific instructional design. Now, I come to the first part of this quotation. The first part of the quotation says, teaching is an art. Okay? So I'm not saying that the beauty of teaching, the way we have been teaching for all these 30, 40 years, that has changed or it has lost its value. Please don't mistake that electronic era doesn't mean that teaching does not remain a beauty, it does not remain an art. Teaching still remains an art. And so the second part of what I'll be speaking, the first part is the science of it. It is about instructional design. It is about designing learning outcomes. Okay. And the second part about it is about teaching as an art. So when I say teaching is an art, then an art needs skill. So I'm coming from meaning and understanding to skill. You are able to see the progression. Okay. So therefore, in this online COVID times, it is a combination of instructional design, which is the science, and acquisition of a specific skill set by teachers to succeed in the art of teaching. Okay. When I say art of teaching, it is individualistic. I'm allowing all the freedom that each teacher can use their own methods. But here I'm just going to make you aware of certain tools, of certain methods. I'll actually show you in practice. I would like to remind Professor Jaswinder, earlier he had said that we should have one session by Professor Bhanumurthy about how we do these freehand drawing and so on and so forth. So I've been thinking about all these online teaching methods. And so my whole lecture is divided into two parts. The first part is about the science of learning, instructional design, Bloom's taxonomy. The second part is about the skill and the art of teaching. Okay. Now there are certain things that I would like to point out over here. If we go on to the Bloom taxonomy, and I'll just remind you, I'll show you over here. If we go on to the Bloom's taxonomy, you will notice, just now we were looking at this, you will notice that at the top you have create. Okay. I have a problem with this. And I'm going to say why I have a problem with this. I'm saying that, see, basically, I've said that we don't want to perpetuate the associative learning. And we have to come up with some scientific methods which have learning outcomes. Okay. But the thing is here, if we expect that from an undergraduate or even a postgraduate student, he should be creative, I think this is not the purpose of university teaching and learning. We should not expect that an undergraduate or postgraduate teacher, student be creative. It is the teacher who has to be creative. So I'm proposing a major shift from the taxonomy, Bloom's taxonomy. I'm saying create, which is coming on the top over here. This is not the place where we should be talking about create. If we talk about create, then actually we should consider this portion of it. This has to go, because I don't expect undergraduate and postgraduate students to be creative. The systems by which we teach them, we don't teach them anything from which we should expect that they should be creative. This creativity is something which should be there in the teacher. The teacher has to be creative more so in the online teaching method. The teacher has to be creative. And so I am proposing the first amendment to Bloom's taxonomy. I propose that remember has to be eliminated from the bottom of the pyramid. In online teaching methods, we don't need remember over there because the content is available at a click of a button. Okay. Cramming is not required. Mugging up is not required. Okay. This also means that the evaluation should not be for mugging up. Okay. So if the evaluation should not be based on simple facts, then that is another challenge, that you have to make it creative. Who is going to set the paper? Not the student, it's the teacher. So it is the teacher who has to be creative. Okay. So if we are talking about Bloom's taxonomy, then I clearly would like to say that creativity, which was there at the top of the pyramid, goes. So my first amendment I'm saying is that from the bottom, remember goes, because cramming is not required. From the top, uh, creativity goes, and creativity goes into the box of the teacher. Okay. And the third thing is, I'm very, very surprised with Bloom's taxonomy, because I was wondering how Bloom's taxonomy doesn't have the most important thing. And if you look at the Bloom's taxonomy, then please tell me, this whole thing is about knowledge acquisition. Where is knowledge? Knowledge is not at all one of the, the learning outcomes over here. Does it mean that the teaching, you remember the title of my previous lecture? I said knowledge management system for the university, re-engineering higher education. I think knowledge is most important. So we really cannot, ignore knowledge. So I'm surprised that the original Bloom's taxonomy did not have knowledge. So the next amendment that I'm suggesting is that, one, we remove memory, we remove remember, we place creativity in the box of the teacher. And then thirdly, we have to add knowledge. And fourthly, there is a difference between apply. If you look at this Bloom taxonomy again, then you see over here, it says apply. Okay. Now, apply is different from skill. I would like to point out, and again, I'm sorry, I have to keep referring to my previous work. In my previous work, I have clearly defined what is skill. It is very different from application. Application is only a mechanical process by which you are translating theory into practice, whereas skill is defined as a specific learned activity. Okay, there is a learning involved in it, and a range of widely complex actions and methods by which you can develop a skill. A skill is far, far more than application. So therefore, what all I'm suggesting that remember goes, knowledge comes in, skill comes in place of apply, and creation is something which goes into the box of the teacher. So now, on the basis of all of this, now I very strongly believe, and I want to add one thing, not only believe, for the past 15 years, all the thousands and thousands and thousands of modules that have been created in my, vicinity by my guidance and direction, they all follow the new version of Bloom's taxonomy. And the new version of Bloom's taxonomy is very clear. It is very precise. You have knowledge at the bottom. In the old system, what was happening is memory or just knowing information was being treated as knowledge. I'm saying knowing some information is not knowledge. There must be meaning. There must be meaningful information. So knowledge is information with meaning. Okay. And understanding is critical. It is the critical faculty, understanding, that if I just know something, it is not enough. I should have the critical faculty to question, to be able to go deeper and then try to understand. So understanding is one step beyond this. And then you have the skill. As I said, skill is not mere application. Okay, it is much more than that. And finally, if there is no value judgment about all of this, we are not there sitting like machines just listening to the teacher. We have to develop our own value judgment, our own value system. We have to know what is right. what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, which is better, which is a better theory, which is a lesser theory. So all of this is about evaluation. It's about value. It's about merits, demerits, disadvantages, advantages. We are not passive listeners. We are not just listening to the teacher. We have to develop our own opinion, our own understanding, our own value system to be able to judge what is good and bad, what is better, which is worse. So therefore, value is the ultimate. In my system, create is not the topmost layer. And it is intentionally so because I'm using the Bloom's taxonomy for developing a model for teaching undergraduate and postgraduate students. This is not about the entire system of teaching and learning. Okay, maybe create will come somewhere if you're doing PhD, if you're writing a new research paper, if you're doing maybe MPhil. I'm not sure about MPhil, but still. Okay, so now what I'm saying therefore is that this is the philosophic part of my lecture. I hope I have made myself clear, and this is something which is not just a philosophy. Log कहते हैं philosophy something in books. No, this is a philosophy which I have implemented in terms of developing learning outcomes for thousands of modules and for the past 15 years. So this is a very, very, very practical philosophy. I have put it to practical use. Now, another part of this philosophy and a method of teaching learning is the teaching learning equilateral triangle. That is, you have to make a balance between learning outcomes. That means, what is the implication of this? The implication is you can't go for online lecture without preparing. You are going to speak for 1 hour. You have to be prepared to see whether when you're speaking, are the learning outcomes laid out? Okay. Have you given content which is in keeping with the learning outcomes? Are you going away from the topic, away from the learning outcomes? And then the quizzes and the questions that you're preparing, is it in consonance with the learning outcomes? So suppose I have 3 learning outcomes, like I have skill, understanding, and knowledge in one particular module, okay, in one particular lecture. I design it in such a way that I'm giving one lecture on demand theory, for example. Then I need skill, understanding, and knowledge as my 3 objectives. I'm not bothered about value over here. What is value? Merits and demerits, advantages, disadvantages, okay? I design another module, another lecture. There, I'm not bothered about skill. Like, for example, in accounting, I say that I give the principles of accounting, but I don't want them to know how to actually draw up a balance sheet. Okay, so that is a skill, right? In statistics, I teach them what is sampling methods, but I don't ask them to actually calculate the probability. If they calculate the probability, that is a skill. So this is how, before you deliver your online lecture, there's a lot of homework to be done. First of all, you have to identify, you have to spell out what are the learning outcomes. Then you have to put in the content according to the learning outcomes. Okay. And you can take some examples in your own subject and apply it. Okay. And then the evaluation, the examination, the quizzes or questions, they also have to be in consonance with this. I have said this is an equilateral triangle. That means there has to be a balance. I hope I'm making myself clear. A balance between the specified learning outcomes, the content which is in accordance with this, and the evaluation tools and methods and the type of evaluation. It has to be in consonance with the learning outcomes. So this is all the, the philosophic part of the outcome-based education. Now, I'm mentioning some more things for those of you who may not be very familiar. the properties of learning outcomes. What are the properties of learning outcomes? They have to be precise. You cannot mix up two learning outcomes in one. So they have to be precise. You clearly have to say to know, okay, or to do something, okay, that's a skill. They have to be measurable, and most importantly, they have to be actionable. So you can measure a learning outcome only if there is some action associated with it, not just saying something, but there has to be they have to be actionable. They are verbs. That is why whenever you talk about learning outcomes, they will start with to know, to understand. Okay. So these are actionable statements. Now, next, I am referring to a controversy. What is this controversy? The controversy is that many people who are in the area of education, they believe that understand should not be a part of learning outcomes. And the reason they give is that understanding as a learning outcome cannot be measured. I'm challenging that idea. And I've gone to National Institute of Education Planning and Administration, and I've had a whole session, and I've told them that this is a wrong notion. And I would add that in the context of online teaching, this becomes all the more important, because your students are not in front of you, you don't have the feel, you don't get the feedback, you can't know really what they are understanding. So I need to say a couple of things over here why understanding is a very important learning outcome and why we should include understanding in the Bloom's taxonomy. If a question in an examination has been designed to test understanding rather than information, it can very well be measured. I design a question which is testing your critical faculty, your understanding. And then I can score you out of 10 for that question. Who says understanding cannot be measured? Okay. In an online or an open book exam, when we are testing them, we are actually not testing them for information because information is available in the book. Okay. We are testing them for understanding. Now, what is understanding related to? I'm going back to the first thing which I said, that meaning. Okay. It is not about information. It is about creation of cognition, about meaning. Okay. So understanding is about meaning. So please design your questions in such a way that they test the understanding. They test whether the student has got a certain meaning out of what has been taught. Okay. So therefore, understanding is about meaning, and it is about how the student has understood, has cognition means recognized. So what is it that he has recognized? Not the face, not the object, like a machine can do. Okay. He has understood the concept. He has understood the theory. He has understood how to apply it. He has understood how to measure it. All these things he has understood. He has also understood which theory is good, which is not so good. So this is all about understanding. Okay. So without understanding, the pyramid cannot stand. Okay. So learning is all about meaning, creation about meaning. So it's a very valid learning outcome, and therefore I maintain that understanding has to be successfully implemented as an outcome in the Bloom's taxonomy. So therefore I'm taking you back to the new version of Bloom taxonomy. This is finally what I'm saying, that after you remove certain things, add certain things, this is the final form in which, and this is a very clear-cut, simple, crisp way. It is very confusing to understand Bloom's taxonomy. But if you understand these three words, if you remember these three words, know, understand, knowledge, understanding, skill, and values. For in future, whenever you develop your content, please just keep these four words in mind. You design each of your lessons according to these four words. Okay, according to these four learning outcomes. Excuse me. Now I'm moving from philosophy to pragmatism. I'm moving from the science of designing learning systems to the art of the skill of teaching. I hope I'm making myself clear. There's a there are two clear-cut parts in my lecture. The first part is philosophy. The first part is the science of developing a scientific learning system. And the second part is the art of teaching, okay, which essentially involves certain skills, okay. I will try to help you in knowing what these skills are, okay, and also I'll try to do some of it hands-on so that you can appreciate what we'll be doing here, okay. If you permit me, now I'll proceed to the second part. First of all, I would like to put some general questions which probably would be arising in the minds of all teachers. They are very natural questions. What are the doubts? The first doubt about online teaching would be where to start. Okay, if there's someone who says, look, I just don't know anything about this, where to start? Okay, you are sitting at home, and in COVID times, a very important question comes, where do I invest? Okay, where do I look? How do I learn? Okay, so these are all the questions which you can see over here reflected as small icons over here. Okay, so now the first thing is how to start, where to start. How to start? Start on your own. Where to look? Look on the net. Two very simple answers. Okay, let me help you with these. One more question was what to invest in. Now there is a stock market crash. Where do you invest? You can't invest in shares. Okay, invest in genuine software. Okay, this involves a little bit of skill. You may take the help of someone to understand which software is good, which is useful. You may also have knowledge of your own subjects. Please invest in genuine software. Okay, invest in a good operating system, a relatively new operating system. It has got many advantages. Okay, for example, I have migrated to Windows 10. I'm not advertising any system. It could be Linux, it could be anything, but I'm just giving an example. Okay. Another thing is that your Microsoft Office, again, not advertising for that, but as a generic tool for teaching. I have migrated to Office 365. It has got many advantages. Okay. Then also invest in some subject-based softwares. Okay. In certain, like in econometrics packages. Most important, please invest in a good virus check. It will protect you in various ways. Virus check these days is not only about viruses, it is about ransomware, it is about attacks on your security system, so on and so forth. So many things are included in the virus checks. Okay. Again, I'm not advertising, but I'm saying that I have been using Quick Heal for more than 15 years. Okay. So anyway, you could do whatever you like, but choose your own system. I'm not saying for any one of them, but these are some things in which you have to invest. It has become a must. Please ask me why. The reason is today you won't find technicians coming at your beck and call to your house, okay, or office to repair and set right things. Okay. Secondly, the cyber threat is much more than ever before. So therefore, you have to have secure systems. You have to have efficient systems. You can't just think that I'll throw some money and I'll get some technician to come and repair at home or make some software changes. No. Okay. So in this light, I'll tell you something even later. But basic idea is this, that you have to invest in all these systems. Okay. I hope I can proceed. Invest in training. There is a famous saying, when there is a recession, then it is the best time to get trained. And I think that is what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to train you. Okay? Learn generic ICT tools. Join online classes if need be. And I would add, even if you have to pay for it, then it is better to join online classes and learn certain things. Okay? Self-learn. Okay? You self-learn and earmark. This is a point that I'm making in terms of a very specific recommendation. Earmark certain hours of the day to sit down and explore mediums or media like Google Classroom or build up your own LMS. I'll be speaking about this. Okay. Learn to make videos on your computer, phone, etc. Browse YouTube videos. Don't blindly believe all of them. This is another strong recommendation. Whatever I'm saying after for the past 3 slides, now straight away from philosophy and methods and learning outcomes, I'm coming to very practical, suggestions over here. I hope they would be of use to you. Okay. First of all, I said over here, where to look. Okay. I said where to look. Okay. Look on the net, right? So, I'm giving you some examples of how to look on the net. Okay. I hope my link should work. So you can go on to EPG Pathshala, all the content that Bimal was talking about, most of this content you will find over here, UGC, Swayam, MOOCs, and there are other e-books, e-Adhyayan, e-Pathya, all of these things. Then most of all, here you have got a whole list of modules developed under EPG Pathshala. You can see over here, adult education, 190 modules, architecture, 164 modules, biophysics, 450 modules. Now, these are our job. Business economics, 457, chemistry, 565, commerce, 469. These are all things which have been done by our center. You'll have more economics over here. There would be psychology, there would be forensic science. This is all the content that we have developed. Okay, so please go to this source, browse, I said earmark some time, spend some time, maybe if not daily, spend some time on these things. Okay, now this is a snapshot that I was just now talking about. You can go and examine all these. There are some 22,000 plus modules and videos over here. Sometimes there may be a doubt that this is EPG Pathshala, it is meant for PG. The point is that as a teacher, sometimes you may need to know something, but you don't have to directly give it to the student. But as a teacher, your level of knowledge and understanding should be more than that of the students. Another thing, that this is in 4-quadrant approach. So because it is in 4-quadrant, then you will find things like no more. In no more, there are things which are beyond your classroom. I think by now you have learned about this. So you go beyond your classroom. There are so many things over there, value additions over there. So there's a lot of content that you can go on to EPG Pathshala. Okay. Another one which is more relevant for undergraduate teaching is the CEC. In CEC, you would see over here, there are all these things here, skill initiative classes, flipped classroom, curriculum classes, concept classes, beyond classroom, and then you see over here undergraduate subjects, science and technology, especially the content of botany. In CEC, there was some participant from botany, Ram just got it. Okay, botany, there is good content in history, In CEC, there is supposed to be very good content, and some of these other areas here is history. Okay, so you can epigraphy, some very specialized subjects are there, anthropology, and so on and so forth. Even theater. So for undergraduate subjects, now this content may be directly relevant for giving it to the undergraduate students. I talked about flipped classroom. So you can find a lot of that content which can be given beforehand to the students. Okay. Next, there are other subjects as well. You go and see, you can explore each subject wise also. You have got all 5, 6, 7 papers over here. So please go and explore and view the contents. You can see videos also. Now, I said that there's a purpose of keeping some time aside for going out onto the net and browsing. You find some very interesting and free resources. There is something like, for example, Wiley e-textbooks are available. You just have to fill in an activation form and you can register and you can go and, examine, you can read, you can, in fact, download. I'll be coming to some more websites where you can download the e-versions of textbooks as well. Okay. So now there is one project called Project Gutenberg, and this is for free e-books. Okay. And in fact, I'll go to the next slide where you see over here, there are so many free technical books that are available. You can go to this website, freetechbooks.com, and you'll see over here, there are so many, many of them are of course from computer science, but I'm sure you'll be able to find out other textbooks also over here. Now, one book I just downloaded just to show you so that you can have a feel of it. You have over here you can get a full book, ebook version over here. Now, how this would help you is also that some of these books, those of you who have attended the e-kit part, in some of these books, I found a very interesting concept mapping over here. You have this concept mapping and some such tools. You can go and download such books. Okay, again, these are so many textbooks which are available. This is another free download website. In fact, these are 7 websites to download PDF textbooks. I'll just take you to maybe one of them, not all. So this is, textbook revolution. So there are so many books that you can get over here. Within this, there are sub websites called Bookyard, ebook, AVAX Home, so on and so forth. There are so many free textbooks over here. There are 7 different websites, links of which I've given here. Then another very practical suggestion, because you feel isolated, you're not sitting in a staff room, you don't have your colleagues around you, please make a study group. Okay. Once you make a study group, what happens is that in your own subject, there may be teachers from other colleges. Now I'll give you one example for this. That there is one example. This is one group called Computers in Education Society of Ireland. I'm just giving this as an example. You could make a group, or if you go and browse in Google Groups, then you'll come across some existing groups. So you can go and join there also. Now this is their website. Okay. So if you can go and see, there are so many activities relating to teaching of computers, which are going on online. You have annual conferences over here. You have something called a staff room. You have support by teacher groups, other teachers. You have discussion fora. Okay. So these are all some of the features of these kinds of groups. My suggestion is to either create your own Google group or join some other existing group. I'm giving you also a small sample posting from their group. One teacher is writing that one of our teachers is using Google Form in the classroom assignment. The children clicked on the form and the quiz set by the teacher. However, the form and the data gathered and the results are ordered. Yeah, that means there is some problem that someone has issued a Google form as a questionnaire to the students. And then there is some problem in the way in which the students have attempted the questions, the way in which the responses are coming. So you can always go to some such discussion group, put up your questions over there. As I said, you are not sitting in a staff room where you can talk to each other. Through this group, you can get your doubts cleared. Okay. Another thing is something like developing your own online LMS. Okay, what is the LMS? LMS is the learning management system. There is one tool, or rather one software platform, which is known as Quizlet. Okay, so you could go to join this Quizlet. There are many features that you have over here. It will tell you the progress of your class. It will give you a detailed view of those students who have completed or not completed the sessions, the assignments. So then you can have certain charts where you can see the performance, aggregated data in terms of the students and so on. Okay. Another thing which we can do online, as I said, that one of the main things is creativity of the teacher. Okay. So I'm showing you some examples that I have myself developed as an example of creativity of the teacher. Because one of the most important things in Bloom's taxonomy, which has not been said very often, is that the first stage of cognition is about developing the attitude in the student. And for developing the attitude, e-learning or e-medium is an excellent medium. Their interest, their attitude, the liking for a subject, for developing all of this, nothing like your online medium. Okay. Now, one thing which is recommended is to have games, live games. Okay. I can just show you the propensity of e-learning and this e-medium of how you can develop very interesting tools. Okay. And I'm showing this also because many people from literature, from languages, they think that e-learning is something which is not meant for us. Okay. So I'll just show you some examples. One example is for language, for phonetics, I have developed an e-kit, which is about Greek alphabets. All of this, you can do it. Okay, something has been let out of the bag, not too early. I didn't want that to come now. Here. Okay, now I have developed this. You can also do it. Basically, small letters are basic sounds like now I say, I think the mic is not reflecting, but the sound is not coming in the mic. I'm sorry, that is the problem. Let me see if whether it can be done.
सर फॉर शेयरिंग साउंड जब आप स्क्रीन शेयर स्टार्ट करोगे उसमें ऑडियो शेयर स्क्रीन पे क्लिक करोगे ऑडियो का ऑप्शन आ रहा होगा
शेयर स्क्रीन में ऑडियो
शेयर कंप्यूटर ऑडियो
स्टॉप शेयर करना पड़ेगा
नो शेयर कंप्यूटर ऑडियो का ऑप्शन आ रहा होगा आपके पास.
Share screen. Second. Can you do it from there? No.
No sir, it has to be done from your place.
So 1 second. Let me just because this. Mohit, can you help me?
Sir, when you click on share screen, उसके साथ एक ऑप्शंस आ रहे होंगे. उसके अंदर ऑप्शन आता है शेयर कंप्यूटर ऑडियो.
Remote control.
No, not remote control.
I think this is not happening. यहाँ पर share select.
Share computer sound, share computer audio.
I can't see that. Okay, I'll skip that.
Okay, thank you.
Where were we? Live games. Anyway, this was, I'll just explain it. Basically, I'm just telling you how you can create your own games. It's not that difficult. I won't say it's very easy, but it's not, my example over here, what I want to show you is how the teacher can be creative, how the teacher can, through online medium, how we can create an interest in the student, okay? And how some things which you can't do live can be done through the electronic medium. So these are some examples. Now I'm skipping this. Okay. Next, here there are some website you can go and check out. There is something called Moodle downloads. Then you can make your own LMS. Let me just show you this link. It is useful. You could go on to this link. This is a small tutorial on how you can, learn Google Classroom. Okay. So here basically you can create your own classroom in which you can give your assignments, you can give content, you can add students, you can do, of course, I'm not given an assignment over here, so you can do the grading. So all of this can be done when you go on to Google Classroom. And there are some websites which are giving you tutorials on how to run this Google Classroom. So I'm a bit short of time, so I'm skipping this. Now, this is another useful site. There are 7 best websites and for apps for distance learning. It's not only Google Classroom. It tells you about different. Again, there is a sound problem.
Speaking up, standing out, and just getting comfortable.
There's a sound problem. My own thing, it is working, but okay. Then another thing that you can do is to download this Grammarly, especially if you feel a bit, constrained about language. So this is a software that you can download and use. This helps you in improving your language skills. I said I'll be speaking about skills. So you can use your own, develop your own language skills. Now I'm going to show you a series of different kinds of tools that you can learn. Okay. So I said, what do you do? What do you do in this COVID times? You sharpen your tools. Okay. How do you sharpen your tools? Learn how to draw freehand. Okay. So I'm just giving you an example of freehand drawing. Okay. Now in economics, ISLM is supposed to be a very, very complex topic. Those who are from economics, maybe commerce would know. Now this is a freehand drawing. You don't need any special tools or any special, training for this. You can do this very much on your own, in Word or in PowerPoint. This is a set of family savings functions. And the entire derivation of ISLM, all of this is freehand. All of this, I've just sat down on my own and I made all these diagrams. So you could do it also. It's not so difficult. I don't have the time to actually teach it, but I'll show you the next thing about freehand drawing. This is a freehand drawing which I would like to show you how I have done it on Zoom. This is another thing I wanted to share. You can go on to Zoom, okay? And what you do is that you select whiteboard, okay? And you use some of the annotation tools. Now this is freehand drawing. It is almost online, like you would do it in the classroom. And the advantage with this is that in Zoom, I mean, you can use any software. I'm again not for Zoom in particular. But the advantage with Zoom is that when you do this recording session, when you recorded how to draw it, especially in a subject in like economics, drawings are not only important, but how you draw them is a very big learning, both for the teacher and for the student. What steps are you following? Which line are you drawing first? From where are you starting? Where is the origin? How are you naming the points? Okay. What is the equilibrium point? All of these things you have to be very conscious, and all of this can be done very clearly, very comfortably on Zoom also if you have used the whiteboard. And then you could, you see it is here, it is written, I think the total time taken was about some 8 minutes. And I have a full recording. I won't spend so much time on this. Second. So this is another way in which you can do freehand drawing. You can record it also. Now I want to show you one more interesting feature. This feature is meant for with the purpose of explaining to both kinds of those people who have visually challenged and those who have problem of hearing. So there is a tool over here in this. Please notice when you tick at this. Now look, tick at this. Okay, are you able to see the subtitles? Right. Now, what is the purpose of this? The purpose is that when you are explaining, Okay. The subtitles are coming online. But please also understand what are the problems here. The problem is your pronunciation has to be clear. If I use some colloquial pronunciation, then it will misinterpret. Okay. For example, instead of saying the, if I say the, it is reading it as capital letter D. So now, for example, if I am teaching something about ISLM, now what is happening here is someone who has got a hearing defect, okay, can read from the subtitles. Now I'll just say a few sentences. They may appear to be technical to some people, but just for you to have the feel, okay. Dear students, we have two curves over here. The IS function, see, when I said DIS function, the IS function, see, now it is understood. Now this is the job of artificial intelligence. It is machine learning. When you say it repeatedly, then the machine is learning and is able to reproduce. Okay. The LM function is upward sloping. So what do you have to do? You have to get used to speaking a bit slow. And secondly, you have to train yourself in the right pronunciation. For example, some people may be in the habit of saying June. Okay, it is read that as June. So if you say Zoom, it reads it as Zoom. So this can be used for both. I mean, if there is someone who cannot hear properly, they can see the annotation, they can see the subtitles. Okay, so this is one thing. And another tool which I would like to show here is an annotation tool. You have got various annotation tools here. You have laser point. Okay, again, if you want, you can put on your subtitles. We notice over here that the equilibrium rate of interest is RE. I have given a small pause, so it is misinterpreted rate of interest. Rate of interest. Now it is right. The IS function and the LM function intersect So it needs a little bit of training. So this is one thing. You have annotation tools over here. Then another advantage is that you can switch to any slide. Suddenly the student says that I have to go back to the first slide, the first diagram. So you can always switch to any slide from here. Okay, so these are some of the advantages. I think I should switch off the annotation as well. Okay. Now, I have not used anything here. You could also use a pen, okay, and you can erase all ink, okay, and another thing from here, you can go to last used, go to the next slide, okay, arrow options, subtitle settings, everything can be done from here. Now, some other things is to like to use smart art, to use shapes, okay. Just one second. Okay. Another thing I want to share is use of icons. Let me close the use of icons. What you could do is to go to any Word document or PowerPoint, and there you can select some of these icons. They are available theme wise. Suppose you want to say something like stock market, or you want to say something like in chemistry or something, you can always pick up some icons which makes your content more interesting. Then you could use, I'll show you the use of smart art or shapes, okay? And then you can use 3D models. There is a, there is a box over here in which you just write out which kind of model you're interested in. For example, you can say something like furniture, clothing, stickers, toys. So all these 3D models are available. Okay, you can pick up 3D models. There are math symbols which are also available in 3D form. This is very useful for developing content for maths. Then you have 3D models like molecular structure. You have these are, it can be set in motion, and when they are set in motion, you can also give your commentary from here, just as I was doing. You can use subtitles. I'm not doing it right now. So for explaining any molecular structure. Another thing which would be of interest, because chemistry is something which is one of our subjects. Of course, I'm sure Vimal will do a better job of this, but I found out one meta website in which there are so many things available. You can draw structures, browse data, periodic tables. So I'll just try to show a little bit of this because it's an interesting website, especially for chemistry teachers. So here, if you go, then there are so many things which you can explore over here. There's so much of data over here. The chemical structure, there is a here draw structure. Okay, these tools are all here. Okay, then there is browse data about each chemical. You could go into detail. What are these compounds? What are their properties? There are so many things which are. This is a huge meta website which chemistry teachers can use. Another thing is that you can combine three things. You can combine equations, word art, and animation. Here, I start like in mathematics. I start by explaining a simple equation, y is equal to mx plus c. Then I can use animation by clicking each part of it. I'm explaining separately. So this is a combination of equations and word art, and you're using animation. So you could make it more live, even in a subject like maths. That's what I wanted to point out. Then another thing is about collaborative writing. Collaborative writing, you can go to Google Docs. Now, in collaborative writing, there are certain things that you can do. For example, suppose you have a document like this, then you can go and edit it over here. Then your colleague can come and take up some part of the editing. Someone else can do the formatting. So 3 or 4 people can jointly maybe write a paper or write a chapter. So this is something that you could do in Google Docs. But I want to point out one very practical thing, that in COVID times, the thing is there are 2 types of collaborative work. One is that your student is sending you some assignment. Now, my recommendation is then you don't use Google Docs, because what happens is that in Google Docs, you are doing the editing. Whereas if it is a student, you are supposed to be giving instructions. You are supposed to be telling them that this is wrong, please change this, change the equation, there is something wrong with your formatting. So when it comes to a hierarchical relationship in collaborative writing, then my recommendation is don't use Google Docs. Then you just use take up a normal doc file, allow your student to submit an assignment in a normal doc file. And over here, what you can do is to go into review. Okay. In review, you have all these options. You can write your comment over here. You could go and do some editing like I have done over here, track changes. I have deleted certain words over here. Okay. And then it will be noted who has made this change. Now you can send this back to the student. The student can go back and accept or reject the changes. Then the final document can be prepared. So all of this, or you, as I said, you can introduce a new comment over here. So all of this can be done. Apart from this, I'm going to show you one interesting thing that you can do through collaborative writing in a simple Word document. This is the next slide. Here, there is something called compare and combine. You have given an assignment to 20 students, and all of them, they turn in their assignment. Now, in normal times, what would happen is that they would be giving you handwritten assignments. But here, suppose you say that, okay, you give me a typed document. Now, there is a provision over here called compare. Okay. So when you take the 2 assignments of 2 students and then you use this compare tool, then you can make out if one student has copied from the other. It will also tell you which change has come from where. Okay. So therefore, I'm saying that this collaborative writing, you have to use it cleverly. If you're doing it amongst colleagues, use Google Doc. Okay. If you're doing it as a part of the assignments and evaluation, then please don't use Google Doc. You use this reviewing tool. And in this, there are very interesting options like compare, combine. Now, where is combine used? Suppose you have 2 or 3 different drafts and some ideas or some subsection has come from one person, another subsection has come from some other person. You can even combine the 2 documents. So this is another thing about collaborative writing. Now there is another interesting tool called in insert. Many of you must, maybe you've also attended the OFDP. So if we talk about insert, then Okay, this comparing documents I've already shown you. Okay, insert. Where is that gone? Import. Okay. You can import pictures like this, but I wanted to show something else. One sec, just give me a second. From here, I want to insert a picture, let us say, not an online picture. Let me see if I have some picture. Okay, I insert this. Okay, first of all, in the right hand column, you will get design ideas. So how do you place this picture and how can you make it more attractive? How can you also convey what the picture is about? Or do you want to add some other thing over here? You want to add a table along with it. You want to add an Excel sheet along with it. All of those options are there. So you can immediately go to one of these options. Like for example, here, this option is coming like a watermark. Okay. So there are many options that you can get over here. Okay. Now, apart from this, there is something known as alt text. Where is alt text? Here, alt text. When you say alt text, what happens is that you get a description over here. I hope you're able to see a close-up of a baby looking at the camera. Now, what is the purpose of this? The purpose of this is that when a person who is visually challenged, if he looks at this presentation or this slide, then he will know that there is a picture here. There is some kind of object. But the softwares, they're not able to actually read. The softwares meant for visually challenged people, they only read text. Okay, but they are not able to read the picture. Okay, so now what is happening is that with alt text, what is happening is that you have a description over here. So that description will be known to a person who has got some visual problem, visually challenged. Okay, compare document that I've already shown you. Okay, so here all three options are there. Let me shut off the, okay. Now, online annotation, import picture, this is done. Pie chart, yeah. I want to show you one fairly sophisticated animation, which I have myself made in PowerPoint. This is about national income determination. If there are students from, yeah, let me shut off the, yeah, okay. This is creativity. Please keenly look what is happening. You can see over here, this has become red. Now, what we are saying is that if the saving is less than investment, then national income will increase. When national income increases, you come to a point where still saving is less than investment. Now this has turned red. This way, as long as saving is less than investment, you have a red line over here. It further increases. It's showing a red line. Now suppose you cross over to a position where saving is greater than investment. We are showing that here saving is greater than investment, and then national income is decreasing. So from here national income is increasing, from here national income is decreasing, and then I say where saving is equal to investment, here your national income is determined. I can show this again. From here the line comes, and then national income is determined at the equilibrium point. Now we say if the equilibrium gets disturbed and if it goes to the left, then what happens? And if the equilibrium goes to the right, then what happens? Sorry. I was wanting to go ahead. Yeah. Just see this. Okay, here. If we go to the left, it comes to the right. If we go to the right, it comes to the left. Now both come to the equilibrium level. So we are able to show live, and again and again, if the student keeps asking, you can always go back and repeat this. So this is something which you can yourself do. Finally, we are showing that equilibrium is established where saving is equal to investment. This is a big problem with most students don't understand that equilibrium condition comes later and equilibrium comes before that. Anyway, this is one thing that you could do on your own. Okay, it is a complex animation, but it can be done. Okay, now I'm saying one part of our heading is what is going to be the new norm post-COVID. What is going to be the new norm? Okay, so I said this before. Technical support won't be coming easily, so become self-reliant. Okay, more of work from home, no lab assistant to help, so learn troubleshooting. Okay, be prepared to pay technicians if at all. Okay, and that also can be done by remote. This is again a suggestion. I have done it already. Okay, there are certain softwares like TeamViewer. Please download it and keep it on your desktop so that if the technician can't come, you can always call them and they can sit at their end, if it's a software problem, they can sit there and they can do the needful. Okay. There are some security issues because cybercrime has increased a lot. So please make payments wherever necessary through Paytm, not through your bank account. And another thing is keep your system in perfect condition and keep software systems updated. Okay. Don't mechanically say remind me later. Okay. If you cannot update immediately, keep a logbook and then you do the updation, because sometimes what happens is that if you're not updating your virus check, then there could be some kind of backdoor, some Trojan, some kind of attack, some kind of ransomware. I'm increasingly hearing about all this happening from my colleagues. So these are some of the do's and don'ts for what would become the new normal. If your system is old and likely to break down, or if you buy new software and operating system, then you need to rely on two things. I've just now talked about this. TeamViewer, AnyDesk is also another such software which from remote the technician can set right your system. Download both in advance and keep it on your desktop. Okay. These days, customer care phone services are very, very understaffed, and I've experienced it. So use live chat rather for troubleshooting. Okay, it's more, of course, there is one problem with live chat. The problem is very often they are automated. They are actually machines. They are not individuals. So there they don't understand the language that you speak. So just you can keep on holding and try to again reword what you're saying. But there are challenges here, okay? In terms of security, you are likely to be more using your Wi-Fi more and more. So get a more liberal and a faster plan of your Wi-Fi. Save all your financial passwords in a diary at home. Don't mechanically save it on your system. Okay. I have myself recently faced a phishing attempt. Luckily, I could get out unscathed. Use multiple options for logging security. There are different options on your phone and so on and so forth. You exercise all these options. Use phone verification wherever it is necessary and possible. Don't save important passwords by default on the computer. Save all product keys, because it is important that if you have got, purchased new software, all the product keys have to be kept somewhere in a diary or take a printout and keep it. Use virtual keyboard. Whenever you are doing signing into a bank account or somewhere, use your virtual keyboard in net banking. Okay. And as I said earlier, the safest for online payments is Paytm. In that order, credit card, debit card. Only lastly, you should use your net banking. I have a couple of things that I would like to say in the end. Because I do not practice without, I do not preach without practicing. So I have made a new habit about all of what I just said. I have anticipated the new norm. I have tried to equip myself. I have modernized my very, very old desktop. I have changed some habits. Okay. And the last word, having a time schedule. I think this is most important. Okay, the new norm. Okay, we are working increasingly from home. So the new norm is, please have a time schedule. Don't think it is that I can just go and sit and work whenever I please. And please have some time for the family. I think that is most important. Everybody in the family is stressed up. These times are not normal times. So make your own work systematic. Have a time for everything that you do. Have a time for browsing on the net. Have a time for learning new things. Have a time for maintenance. Have a time schedule to for leisure, for viewing the TV, for seeing Netflix, and have a time for the family. I think all of these things are important as far as post-COVID and even present situation is. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. There's a lots of query from so many people.
Okay.
So I'm just going by one. I think this is Dr. Usha Shiva. She's teaching mathematics and she's asking how can she use mathematical tools in writing equations?
Mathematical tools in writing equations.
Yeah.
So I was telling you the advantage. The thing is, the simple answer is you can use equation editor, but I think that is not what you're asking. What I'm trying to say is that you use your animation tools, use smart art, okay, and sometimes you can use other drawing tools, okay, to enhance, and then you use annotation tools. If you combine all of these things, then it will be much more explanatory to be able to explain to students the equation. Sometimes what happens is when we are teaching normally, then we just at a very rapid pace, we just go on writing, okay? And we don't bother to think whether, I'm saying it again and again, outcome-based education, learner-centric education. Please don't think about yourself. Please don't think that I have to complete the syllabus. Please think how the student can best understand. And so there, all these tools of freehand drawing or annotation tools or animation tools or equation editor, smart art, all of these things will be useful in enhancing the quality or the communication that you can have with your math students. Is there something else that you want to know?
Yeah, she's also asking is it in whiteboard, like when he's using Zoom?
Yes. Yes.
So in whiteboard, they can insert symbols possible, like automatically symbol insert in whiteboard.
Whiteboard is not so much meant for symbols. It is more meant for diagrams. That
Yeah.
whatever you are doing, the thing is that here I showed you one example of how I drew some ISLM thing. So in that you have all your drawing tools. The added advantage, as I said, is that you can also do freehand drawing. That is the main advantage of whiteboard. It is not very convenient for doing symbols and equations. That I agree.
Okay, this is one more question from Dr. Leena Pandit. She's
Yes.
asking, can we insert 3D model in Word document? It is possible.
I think it should be possible.
Yeah. So I think if you just draw the 3D model and just insert in that, it's easy. Like,
yes, it is possible.
thank you, sir. And there's one more question. Like, the people are asking for the free software. If they want to like develop e-content, what are the free softwares available? Like if we want to record our, like I just want to give my answer myself right now. Is suppose we want to insert like audio, Audacity is there.
Yeah.
Right. If you want to capture a Screencast-O-Matic is there. Right. There's one software, free software is available, OBS, Open Broadcast Software, by which you can just capture your screen, you can capture your audio, video, everything side by side.
Yes.
So if you want to add some more?
No, I'm sure actually this would need a full complete session to.
Yes, true. Right.
There are actually I just given small, cameos about each thing. There isn't enough time to explain everything, but as much as possible, I have tried to introduce in the lecture. So for each of these things, we may have to really spend a long time to explain everything. Anything else? Any other?
Actually, maximum people like saying like they have, when they're preparing their lecture, there are so many numeric formats are like they need so many numeric expressions basically and logical operators. So I think they're all available in Word and PowerPoint, but mostly people are asking, sir, how can we use numeric one?
How can we use?
Numeric symbols, like numeric expressions.
Numeric expressions.
This is all available, I think so. It's all available in.
All available. I'll give you one small suggestion.
Yeah.
If you write an equation in Excel, okay?
Better.
Okay. You go to a cell and you write an equation in Excel, okay? And then you go and there is there is an option in help, okay? In which you can go and click, I'm forgetting the name of that option. You can, normally the equation will not be visible, okay? But if you click at that, then the equation comes out in each cell. And then you can also take a screenshot of that. So what is happening is that you are getting a result in one cell, which is numeric. But how did you generate that result? That is by virtue of a formula. Then that is called formula editing. Sorry, now I remembered. It is called formula editing. So you go and click at help and you type formula auditing. When you say formula auditing, not editing, then that whole equation is visible to you. So you can take a screenshot of that. So you have the relationship between the numeric result and how that has been generated from a formula by clicking at formula auditing.
Right. So can you just give some light on LMS? Actually, the people are interested in Moodles actually. How they can...
I think, Arun, you can very well answer the question as much as I can. You please.
See, that's true. The people can like download Moodle. It's freely available and you can just prepare LMS accordingly. But for that, you need some technical knowledge. If you have some people from your computer science background in your colleges, it will help you out.
No, but I am saying that I have given certain, there are certain websites where you don't have to build your own LMS.
That's true. That's true.
There you can, as a beginner, you can go and explore. I've given some of the links over here. You can go and explore and see how you can use those LMS. I think the first thing to do is to go to generic software, for example, Google Classroom or something like that. You start using it, because the challenge is not so much in these times about how you want to develop your own LMS. That is for people who are more like Arun, who is more advanced and who have done a lot more work in this area. But for an ordinary teacher, I would suggest that, for example, Google Classroom is a very good beginning point. So it's basically more about how to use it. The feedback link is not working. Which feedback link? Acha, okay. Any other question?
Actually, Dr. Shikha from PGDAB College, she's asking, like, so if she's interested in developing a MOOC, so how can she apply in that?
No, I think that is not a part of this particular lecture, and this question comes very often, and I would like to still answer that question for a very different reason. See, most people, they have a wrong impression as though making a MOOCs is something where you can suddenly jump to the last stage of making a MOOC. See, making a MOOC is a very long journey. You have to first understand what is learning, what are learning outcomes, what is the outcome-based approach, learn the pedagogy aspect, learn, and you must have, as Bakshi sir very often says, that the most important thing is subject knowledge. After all of that, then you start doing the content development in a small way. And Shikha, you have also started doing it. You have made e-kits. So I would recommend, don't aim straight away for MOOC. I think e-kit is a very good, compromise between those who are interested and still don't have that much of expertise to be able to develop a MOOC. So I think basically I would say that it's good to be interested, but it is difficult to have very big targets and ambitions to begin with. So MOOC is not the immediate thing which everyone can attempt to do.
Okay, and there's one teacher from Metri College, Dr. Bhumika. She's asking, can it possible we can ask MCQ with images?
Yes, very much possible. In fact, that audio thing, unfortunately, it didn't work. But that was a good example of how you can use both audio and visual tools in PowerPoint, and you can very much have the purpose of showing. I showed 3 or 4 tools. I showed icons. I showed 2D, some tools. Then I showed animation. I showed 3D, images. All these things are available. Now, I would like to say one thing here. I am not very sure whether this whole plethora of things are available in any version which is lower than Windows 10. And also, when you go for Windows 10, you should always go for Office 365. Many of the things that I'm doing and showing over here, they may be something very specific to the very latest state-of-the-art kind of, but they are generic tools. That is what I want to emphasize. I am not asking you to go for any specialized software, including Moodle. I don't think you need to go as a beginner. You don't have to go for specialized softwares. You don't have to develop your own Moodle or your LMS. There are things.
Let me add here, sir.
Yeah.
I think as teachers, we should be focusing more on, as you rightly said, on the structuring of the course, the content, the quality, which has to be only created by us. And yes, it should be the responsibility of the administration from college and university side that they should be giving you the virtual platform. Alternatively, there are many virtual platforms available which you can use as beginners. And I think that's why, because if you go into the technology, even we being more tech savvy teachers, even then it is our limitation that we cannot create the entire Moodle platform on our own single-handedly, because there are server issues. If your students log in and if they are not having better experience, there's so many. So let's not worry about the technical. We should be aware about them, but what we have to learn more is how to structure, put the content, make the interactions with our learners more meaningful. So as teachers, we should look at that aspect of learning management system. And very soon there will be many FDPs, and we are doing some collaborative activities which will be giving you idea where how you can actually use these tools. And now I will request Professor Bakshi to please add a few words around this, because this has been more side of a technical thing and more hands-on. There were queries on softwares and all. See, it's a big sea of softwares where you are comfortable. You should start with free open source wherever you get. And as Arun rightly said, there are so many available, and some proprietary I think we all have been using. So it's your decision, depending upon various factors, that which machine you are using, which OS you are using, what comfort level you have. But the most important is to make a beginning, that how you start integrating in your online. And most importantly, it's not online, we have to go to blended learning type of thing, where we take the help of flipped classroom model and so on. And we will be discussing in more detail about all these. Those who have been with us in 1 week FTP, I think they have already learned the tools where we have talked about. Here in webinars, we are talking about the theoretical and the visionary aspects of these, and how it is important, what are the challenges, what are the opportunities. But in our faculty development programs, it's the hands-on, we provide exposure to you. And that's where with the combination we are trying to make some sincere effort in this direction. And I'll request Professor Bakshi to please add a few words, sir.
Dr. Vimal, let me congratulate Professor Bhanumurthy for really a very good presentation on how teaching can be carried out during COVID times and post-COVID times. So I think whatsoever he has spoken, you know, the biggest thing which is important is that he has given a lot of thought to the Bloom's taxonomy. And then, you know, Bloom's taxonomy talks about 6-level hierarchy in learning. But then he really thought on each of these aspects and modified it and reduced Bloom's taxonomy to 4-level hierarchy, starting with knowledge, then you have understanding, skills, and at the top you have the value. So I think it's a very novel thought, and then, you know, he could explain each and every aspect very important. And what is most important thing is that if you really want to be successful in teaching, besides having this, you know, modified Bloom's taxonomy in mind, one has to be very, very tech savvy. So that is very, very important. And for that, he has talked about various technology, resources, and tools, which can be a very big asset to the teachers. So I think it has been very good. And, you know, one thing which really comes to my mind is that when we all know that technology is an enabler, it makes lives easier and convenient. And the same can be done in education also. If we look around, everything is based on technology. Sometimes I wonder why still this topic is being discussed about the usefulness of technology in education. Why people still, you know, discuss this or dispute that it is not possible. I think one has to keep it in mind. And one more thing which is to be kept in mind is, if you are tech savvy, if you are knowing the subject very well, if you are, very good in pedagogy, then with all these things with you, you can be, or you can transform the system in a very, very big way. I personally feel, because many people ask the question, will technology replace the teachers? No, but teachers with technology will certainly be replacing teachers with no technology. That's going to be what is going to happen in the future. So it's, high time, because this COVID came suddenly. Many of us were not that well prepared to meet the challenges. Many of us are not tech savvy. In our higher education, we have teachers in the age group up to 65, maybe from 25 onwards. Many of them are very bright, they are tech savvy, but many are not. So now the realization must come that in this profession, if you really want to do justice with teaching, you have to become tech savvy, and you should also be aware of the various technology resources and the tools. I think Professor Bhanumurthy has given an exhaustive, list of all that. But knowing is not enough. Even a simple PowerPoint presentation, which we all make, there are so many features which still we do not know. So the best thing is that you practice a lot and then become proficient in that. This is the need of the hour. Because, students these days are more tech savvy, I would say. They have grown with internet and technology. They know technology makes lives easier and convenient. And therefore, they expect their education also to become technology enabled. So I think we have to come up to their expectations. But please remember, whatsoever we may do, the most important thing in any education system will be your knowledge. If you don't have the knowledge of the subject, all other things have no meaning. Technology is only an enabler, but ultimately you have to know the subject. Even if you are very good in pedagogy, what will you do if you do not know the subject? And as I always say, your teaching should reflect the amount of thinking you have done on the subject. This is very, very important. This is not merely passing down the information, how much you have thought over each and every aspect. After all, we also used to teach when there was no technology. And what mattered most was your knowledge. And, we were never told much about pedagogy also during our times, but knowledge. But then suddenly people learned on their own. And I'm sure you must all have benefited a great deal from Professor Bhanumurthy's brilliant presentation. And I still really am mesmerized by the word which he used, that teaching is an art and learning is a science. I think that summarizes everything, because you need certain skills to do justice to the teaching. And when he says learning is a science, one has to understand psychologically how learning takes place in the learners. It's a very, very slow process. When a learner learns something, there is a perceptible changes in actions and behavior. And when more and more learning, these changes become permanent. That changes his mental makeup, and whatsoever knowledge he or she acquires, then they try to apply in the practical situations in life, in profession, in day-to-day life, etc. And that is how the learning gradually takes place. And one thing more which Professor Bhanumurthy very rightly mentioned, that students need not be creative, it is the teachers who have to be creative. There may be a debate about that, but ultimately we need to produce students who are creative. We need to nurture in them out-of-box thinking, because up to MSc it's okay, or up to PG level it is okay. But once they become master in any subject, and after that when they go for research, what matters most in research is your creativity. Because in research, there is no syllabus. Up to UG and PG level, you have a syllabus, you do very well, you work very hard, you score, you see last year's paper, and sheer by hard work and a few other things, you can come to the top. But in research, a different mindset is required. An out-of-box thinking is required. And please remember, that cannot come in one day. It has to be slowly nurtured in the minds of the students. So if in India, as I always say, if there is any dearth, the dearth is of creative minds in India. We need people who can come out with new ideas. You know, in any subject, you may be participants. You teach so many things, but how many things we teach where Indians have made very significant contribution? Not much. Generally, even Bloom's taxonomy is a foreign concept. So like that, we have to be creative and come out with some original ideas. After all, Bloom also came out with a taxonomy based on some ideas. So based on some ideas and understanding of learning science, that's very important. Science of learning, I would put it better. So I think Professor Bhanumurthy has given a very significant amount of food for thought. It really needs to be, you know, appreciated, and whatsoever points he has mentioned, it needs to be imbibed in our teaching. So thank you very much, Professor Bhanumurthy. I can very well imagine how much you must have worked hard, because these things are not ready-made. You know, one thing you should remember, that in our webinar series, so many people, Professor Bhanumurthy, Dr. Jaswinder Singh, Dr. Vimal, or Professor Ved Prakash earlier, whatsoever presentations they have given, you should not only think about the content, but you should also see how they have presented. Because there is a definite thought process behind each presentation. What should come after that? It's not ready-made, it's not written anywhere. So that is also a reflection of the brilliance of the person who is presenting it. So once again, Professor Bhanumurthy, congratulations, and please keep it up. We are proud of you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. And I'll also put my thanks on record for Professor K.V. Bhanumurthy for delivering such a good lecture, and that too in the time highly required as befitting the title. And also thanks to Professor Bakshi for sparing his valuable time to be with us, and also entire team designing all these activities. Not only we are working on some collaborative activities also, and special thanks to Dr. Arun, Dr. Amit for providing all the ground work and the various support in terms of designing these webinars as well as FDPs. And thanks to my team as well, and most important, all of you dear teachers, you are continuing association with us, and we are committed to take it further. And we request that it is not technology is a tool, but it is more about how your creativity will use these technologies to empower yourself. And now the creativity you can really show in how you design your content, how you present it to your learners in the blended teaching learning mode, or online when we are not able to meet our students face to face. And these although are challenging time, but I'm sure all of you will be getting empowered in using these tools. And we are here to take feedback from you and work around these whatever mandate we have and limitations we have. We'll try to best fit into that. And with this, I will now request all of you to please stand up for the national anthem. And
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता। पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
So thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll meet again. Thank you.